Hello, my friends. It is episode 235 of the Laravel News Podcast. The date today is April 14th, 2025. If you have not yet filed your taxes and you are really tired of those tax ads like the rest of us are, you have 1 day left in the US to complete those taxes. No pressure. By the time this podcast comes out, it is too late. You have got to pay taxes and penalties or, penalties and all that stuff. No, you don't. You can file for an extension. You're fine. You're fine. Let's not talk about that, shall we? Let's talk about something a little bit better. Our sponsor, CodeRabbit, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show, which makes your job as a developer so much easier because you can cut code review times in half. I'm so sorry, Michael. I forgot to introduce you. Michael Dyrynda, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up for Michael.
Look, if you want to just take this one, I'll just sit and watch. That'll be fine.
Nope. No, absolutely not. You are the brains behind the operation here. I'm just the color man. Is that what they call it? Like the guy who just adds the
Hype man.
The hype man.
Guy.
I don't know what they call it. Color commentary. That's a color commentary, I think, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so I'm really I think you and I are in a good place right now regarding weather, right? Like it's getting warmer for me, it's getting a little bit cooler for you, and I think we're kind of at that equilibrium point where we're both kind of probably happy with where things are right now. How are you feeling about that? Yeah?
I mean, it's basically still summer here at the moment. I had the air conditioner on because it's still 30 degrees Celsius just this last 4 or 5 days. So I reckon 70, 75 in
86
in the ballpark there. 86, there you
86 Fahrenheit. Yep. So it's pretty toasty, man.
Yeah, it's still, I don't know. It started to turn into winter. It's still chilly in the mornings, but yeah, it's definitely
get that running.
Yeah. I got the 5 in this morning.
Nice. Do you run 5 miles? 5 miles or 5K?
5 kilometers, yeah.
Okay. So that's 3 miles. That's still, that's still respectable, dude. I mean, I'm not out there running 3 miles. Gosh.
No. Yeah. I do 5, 5, and 8. And I went to see the doctor a couple of weeks ago, and he says, "Oh, how much exercise are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I run like 3 times a week, 5 to 8 Ks." And he goes, "Okay, that's like a high level of exercise." And I am thinking, I'm not doing that much. And the doctor's like, "No, that's what would consider like high level." I'm like, "Okay."
That's freaking plenty. My gosh. Three. So for me, 3 miles is probably like 5 miles. My gosh, bro. No, I'm not doing that. I'm
going for a swim.
You know what I saw? Oh, nice. Go for a swim. All right.
Taking up the swimming, getting better. Still, I think I'm getting the breathing. A couple of weeks ago, my instructor and I kind of came to the conclusion that maybe I've got this subconscious fear of drowning because
okay.
Trying to do freestyle by myself, if I turn my head to breathe, I like open my mouth, but I can't. It's like I'm still holding my breath with my mouth open, so I can't get the air in. But as soon as I get the little paddleboard out there, no problems. So it's just like this subconscious thing that I've got to work through, which is like if you haven't been swimming for 20 years and you don't spend a lot of time in water, it's it's just some unlearning. And I think the other thing is the breathing for swimming is kind of the opposite to running. So I've done a lot of running. Running is breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, whereas swimming is in through the mouth and out through the nose.
That's actually very true. Absolutely.
Which takes some thinking. So
good point.
Getting there. Just it's repetition now and practice. And now I've got the technique. It's just a matter of just doing it over and over again. So I swam like 300 meters last year, and it's like, that's 11 minutes per 100 meters or something like that. I'm like, I can run
exhausting.
twice as fast in half the time. But yeah, it's the impact stuff, right? It's not not impacting on my joints, my hips, my knees, my ankles, all of those things that are buggered anyway.
So I used to be I used, my dad was a swimmer growing up. And so he taught us how to swim, me and my brothers, since we were very competitive. We liked to swim and race each other. And we grew up on this, we had this little pond lake in our neighborhood. And we would go swim. All summer, every day we'd be swimming. Yeah. So I considered us to be pretty decent swimmers. And, we all probably were decent. Well, we were seeing some friends in Arizona, and their daughter swims. So she's like 14. Whatever. She's a 14-year-old kid. Yeah. Well, competitive. Yeah. She swims for school, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, how good can she be? Right. Let's do like a lap down and back. Like we were at this pool where they had like lanes, and I was like, I'll take you on. Let's go. And she's bring it on. Let's go.
See you later.
She smoked me.
Yeah.
Smoked me, dude. I mean, not even close. Like beat me by like half a lane. I don't even know how long those things are, but just destroyed me. I was so out of breath. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, it's best
it was
not
terrible.
like, especially when they do it all the time. You know, it's very different. Like even watching some of the other people that are just there casually swimming while I'm flailing in the pool, and it's like, okay, like I have I don't really want to be quick. I just want to have the stamina to do,
yeah.
You know,
and
like
you don't want to look
like,
you don't want to look like a moron out there. You just want to be like smooth and steady and
yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
All right, well, thanks for checking out the Laravel Swim podcast.
Yep. Until next time, folks. We'll see you later. You know, honestly, I have a feeling like people like that part of things. You know, I think it humanizes everything. You know, we're all here. We're all here to kind of, you know, hear about what's going on in everybody's lives. So, hey,
and you know what? If people don't like it, we chapter mark the podcast, and you can skip out of the preamble and straight into the Laravel specific stuff if that is your preference.
We actually do. And you know what? I got to give a quick shout out because we posted about our other podcast recently, and we actually had a couple people respond. So Sid and Andrew Minion actually reached out and gave some answers to some questions we were asking. So if you'd like to say something, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, and we'll shout you out on the show. We always love to hear from people. Hey, with that being said, so we get into it. We got a couple releases, some news, some packages, all the good stuff. All right, rock, paper, scissors. Let's see who goes first. Here we go. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Whee!
Oh, I win. I got the scissors. You got the paper. Here we go.
The scissors?
I got the scissors. Laravel team released 12.7.0 recently, which includes 2 excellent new features: resource helper functions for models and a where attached to Eloquent method. Tim Kunze contributed helper methods. They'll make generating resource instances fluent using an Eloquent model or collection. So before, you would have had to do user resource : make and then user find one. So you have to pass that in there. Or if you wanted to do a collection resource, user resource, dodop collection, and then you pass in that group of users that you want to do as a collection. Well, no longer. Now you can do user find one to resource. So you can just use that model and then to resource the thing, specifying what resource you want inside of that method. So to resource parens user resource class. Similarly, same thing. If you're in a query already, user query, give me the active ones, paginate them, arrow to resource collection. You can also call to resource without any arguments, and the model will guess the resource name. Of course, you can be explicit and pass a resource, but when you're using Laravel conventions, it can typically be omitted. This is a lot of places we have this in the framework, right? Where it will automatically know what you're trying to look for. Same thing with like factories and things like that. It will automatically give a really good guess as to what you're attempting to get to and fill that in for you. So very nice there. Thank you so much, Tim Kunze. Jacob Baker Kretzmar contributed a where attached to Eloquent query builder method to simplify retrieving records attached to a model via a belongs to many relationship. So before, what you would have had to do is post dodop where has tags and then query where key tags. And so now you can just do where attached to tags, post where attached to tags. And then with an explicit relationship name, you can pass that as a second param if you've, similarly, again, it's going to try and guess for you what relationship you're asking for there. But if you want to be specific, you want to be explicit, you can be by passing that relationship name as a second argument to that where attached to method. So just a little bit of simplification there. Making the URI class macroable. We've seen this across many of the different classes that we have in the Laravel framework now. Of course, requests, collections, all sorts of different things are macroable, which basically means you can add your own methods on there. So you can just fluently chain that particular custom method on. So then now the URI class is macroable, similar to many of those others. That's it for 12.7. You can, of course, find the change log between 12.6 and 12.0 on GitHub. And those release notes are directly from the change log that we have in the show notes. Check those ones out.
Nice. Automatic relation loading was a highlight feature, I think, from Laravel 12.8. Now, this one has actually been simmering for quite a while, like months of time, I think. And the original person that submitted it put in a lot of work. Taylor then came in and did tailor things to it. So this effectively allows you to, in large projects, it can become difficult to track and manually specify which relations should be eager loaded, especially if those relations are deeply nested or dynamically used. Therefore, automatic relation loading can be useful, quoting Serhiy Litvinchuk from his pull request adding the feature. So previously where you would have done something either like, a project : with, and then passed an array of relationships, or on an already loaded project, you might call project arrow load, and then pass a list of relationships. And you can use dot notation to go, for a project, you can load the client.owner.details, and it'll traverse the relationships of all of those models and make sure that it will efficiently load everything in one query. But as pointed out in the pull request, it can get a bit overwhelming to remember to add them, to determine which ones are being used if you're not using the strict model stuff in Laravel to kind of prevent things from being used that you didn't mean to. Using this new with relationship auto-loading method on a collection will handle doing all of that for you. So you can just reference things and Laravel will introspect those nested calls and will make sure that it will automatically eager load the missing relationships for you using the load missing method. You can also enable automatic loading across models using the automatically eager load relationships method on the model parent class. So thanks to Serhiy for that one. Dark Ghost Hunter contributed a from JSON method to the collection class, which you can use to create a collection from a JSON string. If you've ever done this before, if you've ever pulled things in from a file that you've got in storage, for example, you know that you would have had to do a JSON decode on the JSON string and make sure it gets parsed as an array. You can now do collection : from JSON to get the same outcome. Philip Yezi contributed a force create many and force create many quietly eloquent method for the has one or many relationships. So previously you would have had to map over them and then run all of these things by hand. You can now pipe this through a collection of models and have that all done for you nice and simply. There are some code examples, of course, and I know at this point never to try and read them out if I can help it. So we'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
Very good. Well, folks, this is a really exciting one. Simon Hamp and Marcel Posiat have worked together to bring us native PHP for desktop version 1.0.0. So this was started years ago, actually, at the US 2023 Nashville Laracon. Minds were blown when Marcel first demonstrated this framework that it's not framework, right? But this library that he was using to build these cross-platform desktop apps. So you have things like window management and menu management and file management and database support and native notifications and all those sorts of things. So you could build a menu bar app, you could build a launcher app, you could build a screen recorder, you can build all sorts of things that you could do directly in the operating system of your choice. And now also you can do that for mobile apps as well. So there's two different talks out there actually about this. Laracon 2023 one from Marcel, of course. And then there's also the talk from Simon Hamp at Laracon EU, building mobile apps with PHP. So up until now, it's been in beta, but this has been a huge milestone for a project that started as just an idea. To see it reach a stable release and support building different apps across all these platforms is pretty incredible. So April 1st, 2023, when shared on Twitter, I don't know if it was shown as like an April Fool's sort of thing, but Taylor was like, yeah, super interested. Aaron France was, yes, please, let's definitely do this. And that was all the encouragement that was needed. So 2 years later, and today, it's the best way for Laravel devs to build distributable desktop apps. So for those of you who have tried the alpha or the beta, all you need to do is update the dependency in your Composer JSON to the version 1 release and then run Composer update. You should see your Laravel app appear in its own window, ready for you to start building something awesome. So this release of native PHP has dropped support for Laravel 10 and PHP 8.1 and 8.2. So make sure your apps are up to date and ready to work with the latest tooling, and then go tell all your friends that native PHP is ready for the prime time. So check out the official release announcement on GitHub, where they talk about all of this. and look at all the neat new things that they're doing there, as well as get some ideas for things that you could create with native PHP. Thanks so much for all the work on that one, Simon and Marcel and all the folks around that project. Really great work.
Yeah. Speaking of Marcel, Laravel heard the Raycast extension from the team at Beyond Code. This was released. If you've not used Raycast, it is a popular productivity application that you can use to replace the Spotlight tool on a Mac computer. And Laravel Herd's extension will allow you to quickly install new PHP versions, to update your global PHP version, update the configuration files in your editor, and more. Along with all of that, you've got quick access to Herd features and settings, allowing you to directly interact with Herd's functionality from the Raycast application. You can open sites in your code editor in browser or Finder to get to those things wherever you need to. You can access Herd's dumps window. You have access to the built-in Herd mail server, and you can open a site's environment file, database, and more. The Herd extension can be found on the Raycast website. The source code is available on GitHub. You will need to have Raycast installed to use the extension, which is only available for macOS at the current time. You can check out all of that. I saw when this post came out announcing the extension. I was very excited by it, and I just haven't installed it yet. So I'm going to do it right now.
I did it. I think I got it. Yeah, I did. I put it up the first day, and it is definitely helpful. No doubt about it. And really good work on that one. I love Raycast. Raycast is so great. I use it.
It's good, isn't it?
All the time. It's excellent. It has replaced so many other apps on my computer, and huge fan. So it was really nice to have the Laravel Herd extension drop. Hey, speaking of awesome things and awesome people, Laravel's conference speaking and more with Zuzana K. So Eric sat down with Zuzana, who is an incredible individual. I had the opportunity to speak with her at Laracon in 2023 at Nashville, so I got to spend some time with her. She's just an awesome person, and been able to keep up with her. She's a really cool mom, I think, too. We talked about her kids, and her daughter is insanely talented at drawing and just really cool stuff. So really nice person. Eric got to sit down with her and talk about her her career and how she's just explored the power of community in tech and her journey in building Larabels, which is an initiative supporting women and anybody who doesn't identify as a man in Laravel development. She shares her path into tech, the different challenges she's had, and why visible role models matter. So really great episode. You should definitely check it out. Also, you can check out larabels.com or zuzana-k.com, or her personal website, or her podcast, cheeseandweather.com, where her and a couple other folks that you might know, Ben Holman, Dave Hicking, talk about all things related to cheese and weather. And there's been a couple guests on there as well. So it's good times. You definitely check that one out.
And shout out also to Zuzana, who's just gone full time on Larabels to really dedicate time and her effort into making that as good as it can be. She was on the Over Engineered podcast with Chris Morrell last week at the time of this recording. So we'll link to that one in the show notes for you to check out. But shout out. I know it was, when Laracon AU started back in 2018, we had like Jess Archer. She was, the female member of the community, and it's just been inspiring, I think, a lot on the back of the work Susanna's done, on the work that the community at large has done, and having people in the community on stage representing, the lesser represented parts of the community, to see that grow. We had 30 or so non-male people that they all got on stage to take a photo last year at Laracon AU, which is a huge improvement. Still more work to be done, of course, but way more than that one Jess Archer back in 2018, and even just last year at in Dallas, to seeing all of the people that were on stage for the photo there as well. So shout out, Susanna, you're doing incredible work, and we look forward to supporting that in the future as well. On to the packages. First up, we have Jake has kindly put a tutorial in here in the package section.
Sorry.
Image dimension validation with Laravel's dimensions rule. We'll talk about it anyway. Laravel offers powerful image validation capabilities through the dimensions rule and provides fine-grained control over image size and proportions for your application's media uploads. So you can use the rule.op dimensions method, and then you can specify minimum width, minimum height, max height on your images that are being uploaded that are going through, the image validation rule. You can handle dimensions, you can handle aspect ratios, and all kinds of things like that. The tutorial goes into more detail about that. We'll have links to that for you in the show notes.
Very cool. Another package we have here is called Laravel Unique. This is a package by Will Vincent that allows you a trait for your Laravel Eloquent models that will ensure that a field remains unique within specified constraints. So you might say to yourself, why would I not just mark a field as unique in the database? Well, you can, but then you have to be the one responsible for figuring out what a unique name is. You have to do does it exist already or whatever, and you don't want to necessarily throw a validation error or something like that. So this offers flexible suffix formats or custom value generators, which are ideal for scenarios like unique names, slugs, or identifiers. So here are some of the main features. It enforces uniqueness at the application level before saving. So before it hits that error, it will enforce uniqueness previous to that point. It supports custom suffix formats. It allows for custom value generators for advanced uniqueness logic. It's configurable via a config file or model properties, and it handles constraints like uniqueness within a specific scope. So you could say it needs to be unique to this team, for example. So as long as it's not duplicated across the team, it should be fine. So all that sort of stuff. The examples are really helpful. I'm not going to read through all the different ones that we have, but I think the description itself does a pretty good job explaining what it is it's trying to accomplish. So again, just as a final note, the package ensures uniqueness at the application level, but for data integrity, particularly in high concurrency scenarios, if you're needing to do that, it would also be advisable to add database level unique constraints in conjunction with this trait, but this will help you avoid any problems you might have on that front by doing some of the unique checks for you. Laravel Unique.
Yes. Wisp is a PHP SSH server package created by Ashley Hindle. It is the simplest way to build PHP SSH apps and allows you to run your Laravel prompts apps through SSH with ridiculous simplicity. If you're starting a new application, you can use the existing project template provided by Ash, or you can add Wisp to an existing project using Composer. You start the server and provide the apps you would like to be made available using the Wisp server and specify a port. And then it also allows Wisp to auto-discover apps or provide a single default application. You can test your applications locally by SSHing to a local port, and your users will access your apps remotely using SSH. We've seen a lot of examples of this. Joe Tannenbaum did a lot of stuff like this last year in terms of, TUIs over SSH. The terminal team are selling coffee were selling coffee exclusively in the terminal. So there's a lot of this stuff going on in the world at the moment. I can't think of any practical use cases off the top of my head, but if it's something that you wanted to do, then it's certainly something that is readily available to PHP developers now. So definitely check that out. We'll have links to Wisp in the show notes.
One of the things that I think could be helpful with this is if you had something that you wanted to do to dynamically retry jobs or things like that, you could put something together where you have like a Forge API, something like that. But, so you could be issuing commands to Forge, and that's fine. That does work. But you could also just sort of SSH in and pop around and do those things. But this would certainly be helpful instead of having to get into each one of the ones, each one of the locations and go issue the retry commands and things like that. I could see something like that helping. We have a number of different applications that we monitor for failed jobs throughout the day. And I could see something like this being helpful. I mean, really just talking about saving time, right? That's what it comes down to. Really, at the end of the day, one of the big things that we are employed to do as developers is to save time. That's why we exist, is to make things more efficient. And speaking of efficiency, if you are one of the people on the team tasked with reviewing code, you know that can turn into a daunting task really quickly, especially if you've got a large number of team members and you are the one tasked with doing the reviews. So CodeRabbit actually makes that process a lot easier. Their claim, in fact, is that they can cut review time in half. And while doing so, they can also monitor for bugs that might be found in your code automatically that you might not find when reviewing it manually. So if you've ever spent hours reviewing Laravel service provider implementation or catching circular dependencies in your dependency injection, if you want your code reviews to catch architectural issues before they become technical debt, then CodeRabbit is your AI-powered code review companion that deeply understands PHP, not just JavaScript, right? So tired of all the JavaScript tools that aren't specific to us and what we want to deal with. So it deeply understands PHP. And not only that, but the Laravel ecosystem, going beyond what traditional static analysis tools can catch. So it has automatic PR summaries, file change walkthroughs. It runs popular linters like PHP Stan, Biome, Rough. It has highlighting for code and configuration security issues, and then it also enables you to write custom code, review instructions, and AST grep rules. They're proudly supporters of the PHP open source ecosystem, and they're maintainers of projects like Pinkery and Cache. Their commitment to open source means that they help maintainers focus on innovation rather than repetitive code reviews. CodeRabbit is free for open source maintainers, so if you happen to be one of those, you should definitely be checking this out. Otherwise, you can check them out at coderabbit.io. Thanks so much, CodeRabbit, coderabbit.ai, not IO. CodeRabbit.ai. Thanks, CodeRabbit.
PHP DevTools console is a package that we're going to talk about here, written up by Yannick. For years, front-end developers have enjoyed the luxury of browser-based developer tools to inspect, debug, and test their HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in real time. However, PHP developers, particularly those working with Laravel, haven't had the same convenience due to PHP's server-side nature. This is about to change thanks to a new Chrome extension created by Tony Lee. This extension leverages Sparssy's Laravel WebTinker package, which requires developers to navigate a separate route to access its features. However, the new extension seamlessly integrates into your browser's DevTools panel. This means you can now access PHP and Laravel Artisan Tinker console capabilities instantly without leaving your current page or switching between different windows. It is recommended, of course, that this is only used for development. You should never install it or use it in a production environment or any environment where you handle real-world data. You can try this extension on your next development project by visiting the repository of GitHub and following the installation instructions. We'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
Awesome. If you've not met JMac before, Mr. Jason McCreary, Mr. Gone Dark, the Shift creator, Laravel Shift creator, you should definitely meet him. He's a lovely dude, and he had a mustache last time he was at Laracon. It was amazing. It was glorious. He tried to convince me to do it. I couldn't do it. But the Laravel test assertions package is created by this guy, by the Shift creator, Mr. Jason McCreary. It's a set of helpful assertions for testing Laravel applications, and the package provides a trait with useful assertions, Laravel matcher methods, and general test helpers. Here are some of them. Assert action uses form request. Assert action uses middleware. Assert route uses form request. Assert route uses middleware. Assert validation rules. Assert exact validation rules. Assert validation rule contains. Assert view has null. Create form request. All sorts of good stuff. And a lot of these things are just stuff that Jason is uniquely qualified to know about because he has seen the worst of the worst when it comes to Laravel applications. He's responsible for making sure that all of these applications are able to be shifted. And I know that he has his human shift service as well. And one of the things he has to do is catch all of these crufty garbage errors. And so I know looking at some of these things, they've been custom made to help catch some of these scenarios that aren't necessarily easy to test in Laravel. So those form request things or validation rules can be notoriously tricky. How exactly do you test those? And so this kind of gives you an opinionated way to test those things. So Jason shared an example of using this freeze now helper in a test to freeze time and make assertions. They also have some matches you can use to determine if a variable is a model, a collection, or eloquent collection instance. You can, of course, learn more about the package, get full installation instructions, and view the source code on GitHub, where Jason has some helpful documentation in there and when you might use each one of these in particular. Check that one out. Thanks, Paul, for writing that one up. Everyone's favorite human.
Nice. Once again this week, Harris Raftopoulos has been hard at work on tutorials. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 different tutorials here. I know that you've singled out these 3, Jake. Maybe you hit those and then we will link to the other 13 in the show notes.
Sounds good. I'll take the first two. You take the second two. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, simplifying real-time notifications with Laravel's anonymous broadcasts. So Laravel introduced this idea of anonymous broadcasts, which really provides a streamlined approach to sending real-time updates to your front end without having to create a dedicated event class. So sometimes, you just want to push it, set it and forget it, send it and forget it. So you could do broadcast dodop on name of the channel, arrow, send. That's it. That's all you have to do to send a basic anonymous broadcast. So if you're wanting to just say something happened and you don't need an event class, you just chuck it to the front end and you're done. The simplified API enables quick implementation of real-time features when you need these sort of ad hoc notifications without the formality of full event class structures. That's it. The system really offers lots of flexibility with different channel types to match your authentication requirements as well. You can control timing and recipient targeting with additional methods like send now or send only to me or send to others. And then it's really easy to listen to these events on the front end with Echo. So check this all out if you're interested in that one. Monitoring HTTP interactions with Laravel's new HTTP record method. So this is cool. You can do HTTP fake. That's something that you can do with the new HTTP client, but you can also do HTTP record, where you can make actual HTTP requests, and then you can access those recorded requests and responses for analysis. So unlike that HTTP fake, which prevents actual external communication, this method allows you visibility into real requests while letting them execute normally. Really invaluable for integration testing when you need to actually reach out and touch the real thing, because debugging external API communications can be difficult. So sometimes you need that. Here, what request am I making? What response am I getting? And then allowing inspection without modification of those things. Really nice.
Beautiful. Enhancing database error diagnostics with Laravel's GetRaw SQL. Debugging database errors in Laravel got easy with the GetRaw SQL method available on the query exception class. The feature delivers complete SQL queries with all the bindings properly integrated, eliminating guesswork when tracking down database issues. So you can catch your query exceptions and then call the GetRaw SQL, and then you might do something like log it. Obviously, when logging this stuff, be careful what kind of PII, personal identifying information, that might be in there. So use your best judgment on that. But Harris goes into some details around handling how you would report these exceptions in a useful way for you to deal with later. So check that one out. And the last one we have here is conditional context management made easy with Laravel's context facade. So context was added, I think, in Laravel 10 or Laravel 11 by Australia's very own Tim McDonald. And this allows you to manage contextual data more elegantly with the context facade, and it is now equipped with the conditionable trait. So this allows you to do things like context when, context unless, etc., and then conditionally attach or detach or whatever you need to do. So the example that Harris has here is when you've got an authenticated user or when you've got an authenticated admin, you might store more or less information based on that Boolean flag. So check that one out. As I said, we had 15 tutorials written by Harris and the team this week. So we'll link to them all in the show notes for you to consume in your own leisure. But that is the end of the content for this episode.
Show notes for this episode can be found at laravel-news.com. podcast.laravel-news.com/235. You can find the show on YouTube as well, streaming live. That's not true. You can only find the recorded versions. We don't do live streaming. We say too many dumb things. We got to cut them out after the fact. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to chat with us online, hit us up on X or at Blue Sky, at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Dorindo, or at Laravel News. And of course, if you liked the show, please rate it up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be incredible. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. All right, folks. Till next time, we'll see you later. And thanks, Code Rabbit.
Oh.